The following contest is scheduled for one fall. It is for the West Coast Wrestling Connection Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship. Your referee, Jay Stone. Introducing first.
I climbed that ladder and earned the title shot. Tonight is just Danny Duggan and just me walking out as a champion, because that's all I can do.
Jimmy Jacobs.
This is the man who has been chasing Danny Duggan, playing the mind games for months on end, and finally, the collision that we've been waiting for is going to happen tonight. Jacobs versus Duggan for the heavyweight title.
And his opponent.
A zombie apocalypse is upon us, and there's only one way to take care of a zombie, and that's decapitation. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do tonight, is take his head off.
Northwest Heavyweight Champion, Hot Shot Danny Duggan.
Well, the heavyweight champion, all smiles, having some fun with some of our fans here at ringside, but I'll tell you, all the fun and games is gonna end real quick, Jeff Aiken.
They're all but over already, Joe V. You said it earlier, Danny Duggan in a very, very rare moment. The champion challenged the challenger. He lays down the championship belt. He lays down the fanny pack. You know he means business when that happens.
And look at the expression. It hasn't changed of the zombie princess, Jimmy Jacobs, on his perch like a vulture, eyeing his prey, ready to swoop in and claim what he hopes will be the heavyweight championship tonight. Folks, if you're not familiar with the history of these two men, it's gone on for several months now. Danny Duggan, he's been the heavyweight champion for about 7 months here in the West Coast Wrestling Connection. He has defeated every top star and held on to that belt in just about every way you can imagine. Meanwhile, the zombie princess, Jimmy Jacobs, has been chasing him, saying, well, playing mind games, essentially, saying, I want to do things the right way. Meanwhile, these masked followers of his have been chasing Danny Duggan all over the place, attacking him, costing him matches. For the longest time, Jimmy Jacobs said, I'm not going to wrestle you, Danny Duggan. I'm not ready yet. But then it was last week where Danny Duggan surprised Jimmy Jacobs. He was dressed up as one of the hippies. Jimmy Jacobs didn't realize it. Danny Duggan beat Jimmy Jacobs at his own game, got the surprise pinfall, and that was enough for finally Jimmy Jacobs to accept the challenge, and now we have a heavyweight championship collision.
And I can smell it right now. You can feel it. Hear the Bob-White Theater, and it has just exploded. Jimmy Jacobs, hot shot Danny Duggan, and it is on. Danny Duggan is wanting to get this over as soon as he can. Such a great move by him last week, coming out as that hippie, getting into the mind of Jimmy Jacobs for one, going up over the top. This is huge.
This is not going to be a match for the faint of heart. This is about aggression. This is about tenacity. This is about hate. And a pinfall attempt cross-body by the heavyweight champion, Danny Duggan. These are two men who cannot stand each other. The old saying, this place isn't big enough for the two of us, that certainly applies to the Hot Shot and to the Zombie Princess.
That it does. This is for the West Coast Wrestling Connection's Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship, one of the richest prizes in the game today. They will stop at nothing, at absolutely nothing, to wear that gold around their race. And Jimmy Jacobs right now just beating the champion down into the turnbuckle.
The maniacal master of mind games, the zombie princess Jimmy Jacobs, has Danny Duggan now trapped in the turnbuckle. Jimmy Jacobs, an international superstar. He's held titles in every promotion that he's been in, from Ring of Honor, you name it, all across the world, all across the United States. But he wants to add the West Coast Wrestling Connection's heavyweight championship to that resume, and to do so, he'll have to defeat Danny Duggan. He's got him in the head scissors. Round and round he goes. Who will come out on top? Jimmy Jacobs sends the heavyweight champion right to the mat.
Danny Duggan has a decided weight and size advantage in this matchup. Jimmy Jacobs using his momentum as best he can right there in that head scissors. A little bit dizzy from doing it. Here's where Jimmy Jacobs... Whoa! Oh my goodness, Danny Duggan holds on.
Of the heavyweight champion, catching the zombie princess in midair and drops him face first onto the apron. And now these two men are brawling at ringside. Do not let this end in a count out. We want a decisive victory. We've waited months for this match. Do not let this match end in a count out, please.
Jimmy Jacobs wants the championship, and the championship only gets one within the squared circle, within the ring. And oh no, right into the steel post.
Well, that could be a difference maker right there. The zombie princess colliding skull first into that steel post, and now the heavyweight champion taking the advantage. Forearms, a shot to the face for Jimmy Jacobs. Meanwhile, the referee broke the count, but now it's back on. These two men need to get back in the ring. We want a decisive victor, and now it looks like they're trying to fight their way back to the dressing room.
Well, this does nothing for Jimmy Jacobs. Does everything. Wait a second. More of those black masked men making their way out.
It's the masked following of Jimmy Jacobs, those minions of him, if you will, now making their way out to the ringside area. That distracted Danny Duggan enough for Jimmy Jacobs to get the advantage, and now working on it here at ringside. The referee's giving these men a lot of leeway. I think he wants to see a decisive victor just like we do.
Right there, referee breaks the count at 9. Danny Duggan gets rolled back in the ring.
Yeah, and in fairness, those masked followers, they haven't interfered yet. They're just there distracting Danny Duggan. But meanwhile, that was enough for Jimmy Jacobs to gain the upper hand here. Pinfall attempt. You're going to need a lot more to put away the heavyweight champion. Folks, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the conclusion of this championship match.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the West Coast Wrestling Connection as Jimmy Jacobs challenges hotshot Danny Duggan for the Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship.
And ever since those masked followers appeared at ringside, that was enough to distract the heavyweight champion and Jimmy Jacobs to gain the upper hand. And boy, he's really been controlling the tempo of this match. He's kept Danny Duggan on the mat where he wants him. Of course, Danny Duggan, a bigger, stronger man. You keep him on the mat, you take away all those advantages.
Absolutely. Joe V, those masked men have come out, and Jimmy Jacobs has maintained this whole time that he has nothing to do with them. They're just people that are coming out. But I have to just vehemently disagree, especially now that they have literally handed him control of this matchup. Danny Duggan fighting back, though.
Whoa.
And, oh, my goodness,
over the top goes Jimmy Jacobs.
Here he
goes Danny Duggan. And through the ropes. A suicide dive by the Zombie Princess. And both men on the floor here of the Bob White Theater. And the referee is laying the count. What a shot by Jimmy Jacobs. Both men leaving it. Boy, leaving it all out there.
All of it out there.
Everything goes in this heavyweight championship match.
Referee's been very, very liberal with his counts up to this point. Like you said, Joe, just like the fans, just like you and me, we want to see a decisive winner in this. We've waited months to see this come to a head. But at some point, the referee is going to have to do the referee's job. And if they don't get back in the ring, there will not be a final end to this. And I don't know if I can handle that.
Absolutely waited far too long to see this confrontation. Look at that. Up the steps goes Jimmy Jacobs and nails Danny Duggan with a stiff forearm. And now it looks like the referee's reached 7. These men need to get back in the ring. We do not want a count out. Danny Duggan's back in the ring. That breaks the count. Jimmy Jacobs back in, going for the quick pinfall attempt. 2, and not enough to put away the hot shot.
Danny Duggan's slow to get back up, understandably taking a moment to make sure he's all in one piece to catch his breath back.
Oh, look at that.
Wow. That's just mean. That's just mean right there.
It's mean, but it's legal and it works. Take whatever advantage you can. That is one of the many mantras of the Zombie Princess, Jimmy Jacobs. He will do anything to win. He will do anything to defeat Danny Duggan, and he will do anything to capture the West Coast Wrestling Connection Heavyweight Championship. These two men exchanging blows. Finally, Danny Duggan gaining the upper hand, whipping Jimmy Jacobs into the turnbuckle, and here comes the champ.
Jimmy Jacobs on the second turnbuckle on the inside.
Oh, could this be? This is one of his signatures. Snap tornado suplex, courtesy of Jimmy Jacobs.
He hooks that far leg. This could be it. We can have a new champion, right? No. Just a 2 count.
That's one of the many innovative moves of the Zombie Princess. That's the reason that he's held titles in every promotion that he's been in. And that's the reason why he is currently the #1 contender for the heavyweight championship. And of course, there's other men that have been gunning for Danny Duggan. I know Alexander Hammerstone. He wants a shot. Other men have come and gone. But at this point, the #1 man on Danny Duggan's list is Jimmy Jacobs. He wanted this match. Danny Duggan wanted this match after months and months of mind games back and forth, and he's finally getting it here tonight. But look at this. Jimmy Jacobs, he's got the legs wrapped around him, trying to cut off the oxygen to the brain, wear down the heavyweight champ.
Well, this is such a smart move by Jimmy Jacobs. We talked about taking the strength away from Danny Duggan, but right now, literally using his legs and his arms there to stretch Danny Duggan, making it so difficult for him to get the oxygen, to get the blood flow, and that just completely makes Danny Duggan's offense moot. He's throwing those elbows, trying to do anything he can to break it, gets up off the rope and ducks that elbow, ducks the clothesline.
Back and forth.
Oh, both Both men down. Both men down.
And now I do want to point out, we still have those two masked followers of Jimmy Jacobs. Well, he says they're not his followers. Folks, we all know better. They're at ringside.
Call it what it is, yeah.
While the referee's laying the count. Once again, if he reaches 10, this will be a draw. We do not want this match that we've waited so long. Hold on.
And Jovi, talking about those followers, we've got three
We've got more of them now.
Come on.
We've got 5, count them, 5 followers now at ringside stalking Danny Duggan. And you know this has to be in the mind of the heavyweight champion. He's got to worry about an accomplished wrestler, a champion in his own right in the ring, and now you have 5 of these masked weirdos standing there in the ringside area.
How is this even fair? This is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care if they're with Jimmy Jacobs or not. There is no reason for any person who's not a competitor in the match to be at ringside. Danny Duggan fighting. He's got himself focused on Jimmy Jacobs right now, but there's no way they're not impacting the mental acuity of the champion, Danny Duggan.
And look at that, Jimmy Jacobs able to get the upper hand, but he misses the shot. Here comes the heavyweight champion and hits him with a clothesline as Danny Duggan. Standing dropkick. Down goes the Zombie Princess while the minions watch on. Kick to the gut, and what's going to happen here? Whoa, a spinning cradle DDT for Danny Duggan. 2, and not enough.
So very close. Danny Duggan came so very close, but he's fired up. He's got that adrenaline going right now.
And look at this, though. He's wary of going in. He wants to head up top, but he's keeping his eye on those followers of Jimmy Jacobs. But nonetheless, Danny Duggan climbing to the top rope here of the Bob White Theater.
Jovi,
he's going to ascend.
Big double axe handle right there, right to the top of the head of Jimmy Jacobs. Hooks the far leg. Just a 2 count right there. Of course he's wary walking out there. You don't hold the championship gold as long as Danny Duggan did without watching your back, without being a little wary. But I will point out,
look at that!
Takes him out, takes him out,
Beautiful
takes out the other one.
Baseball slide by Danny Duggan, takes out a minion, takes out another one for good measure. Now, shoulders to the gut of Jimmy Jacobs. Sunset flip attempt from the heavyweight champion. Will Jimmy Jacobs go down? No, hook the leg. 2, hold on.
Referee sees it. The referee saw it.
The minion was holding on to Jimmy Jacobs' hand there, trying to add a little leverage for the pinfall attempt, but
No, Jimmy Jacobs reverses Cruel Summer.
I thought that was going to be the Cruel Summer. He missed a shot. Here comes Jimmy Jacobs. Springboard right into the cutter for Danny Duggan, and now the Zombie Princess could feel it. This could be his opportunity. He wants Danny Duggan to get back to his feet. If he hits that signature spear,
it's over.
This will be it.
Whoa,
what is going on here?
What is this? What is this?
One of the minions.
Referee's calling for the bell as the follower comes in. Jimmy Jacobs is shocked. Look at the look on his face.
This was not part of the strategy here for Jimmy Jacobs. This masked follower ran into the ring and assaulted Danny Duggan. It looks like we've got a disqualification. What?
Hey, wait a
Hold on. Somebody's taking off.
Oh my gosh,
mask.
are you kidding me? It's Matt Striker! Matt Striker was one of the followers.
Matt Striker just came in pretending to be one of Jimmy Jacobs' followers. And now his actions have caused a disqualification. Jimmy Jacobs has lost the match that he's waited months for, lost the opportunity. Danny Duggan is still the heavyweight champion, courtesy of a returning Matt Striker.
I can't believe this, Jovi. Danny Duggan's out. He's out.
Your winner by disqualification, and still West Coast Wrestling Connection Pacific Northwest heavyweight champion, Hot Shot Danny Duggan.
I can't believe it. Jimmy Jacobs can't believe it. He had Danny Duggan dead to rights. It looked like Jimmy Jacobs was going to be the heavyweight champion. And then a masked Matt Striker, unbeknownst to Jimmy Jacobs, runs in, causes the disqualification. And now Jimmy Jacobs, he looks like he's fit to be tied.
There it is. There it is.
He's destroyed his own followers. Look at that.
They just cost him the championship, and he's taking them all out. Spear, spear, spear. We've got...
The plans of Jimmy Jacobs absolutely blew up in his face, courtesy of Matt Striker. And the plans that he had spent months devising to capture the heavyweight championship have blown up in his face, courtesy of Matt Striker. I have to imagine we've got some unsolved issues between these 3 men now, Jeff
What
Aiken.
happens now? What happens now? Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to stay tuned. You've got to tune in next week. Follow us online at the WCWC. What happens now, Jovi?
We are
what
out
happens?
of time, but I can guarantee you we have not seen the last of the Zombie Princess, Jimmy Jacobs. There will be hell to pay.